Hi everyone, my name is Sydney and today we're going to be talking about the final book in the Hunger Games series, Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. I can't believe we've made it to the end, Sid. I can't believe that I've read all 3 books. This series is definitely, hands down, going to be one that I'll remember forever. This is the best trilogy I think I've ever read in my entire life, and that's really saying something. So I will say from the bat, the 3rd book was definitely my least favourite out of the 3, and that doesn't mean that I didn't like it. I actually really enjoyed it, but I did find the pace quite slow for me, and I also did find it a bit repetitive towards the whole notion of Katniss being the Mockingjay. I felt like it was repeated 3 times over the amount that it should have been. And I also think that Suzanne did Gale quite dirty in this book. It hurts me. I've got all 3 here. Oh my goodness. And let's talk about the elephant in the room. Yes, I know that this cover is different to these beautiful covers, and I kind of hate this cover. So for those of you who haven't read this series, please go read it. Don't think that you're late to the party, because I definitely was super late to the party. And it doesn't matter because all 3 books are out. It just means you don't have to wait for another release because all 3 books are there waiting for you. But if you don't know what these books are about, I recommend checking out my review on the first book, Hunger Games. Basically, we follow our protagonist, Katniss Everdeen. To sum it up, it's basically about a fucked up society where people are chosen as tributes to participate in this reality TV show game, which is all about survival of the fittest. So for example, if you're thrown into an arena with 18 other people, only one of you will be left standing. So before we go into the spoilery section, don't forget to subscribe if you want to see what else I'll be reading. Or feel free to leave a comment on a book that you think that I should read next. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. So first thing I want to say, Gale. I'm so upset about his character in this book. Like, yes, he was the voice of reason. He really highlighted what war is like. Sometimes there are losses that have to be made, especially in this kind of situation. But he really makes you kind of dislike him, and I definitely see why Peter and Katniss ended up together. But I still find Peter and Katniss to be something quite iffy. I just feel like their relationship was really forced. And yes, I understand they were there for each other. I also feel like Peter's storyline, especially in this book, was a little bit strange in terms of how he was hijacked. He basically was set out to kill Katniss. I'm glad that he was able to overcome the hijacking, but I really am not a Peter and Katniss fan, and that's just, I think, something personal. I really think that the ending with them 2 was really beautiful, but I just don't understand how he wasn't one who died within this book. Especially being handcuffed for majority of the scenes is unreal to me. But that's just my personal opinion. I don't know if I'm the only one who feels that way, that Peter and Katniss were very forced. But I do understand why they ended up together, because of how Suzanne completely just threw Gale under the bus. Let's move on from that. I had to say it. So what I really enjoyed about this book is you see the society, and there is this rebellion that's formed, and there is so much courage and bravery on the surface within this rebellion. The Capitol are just there being superior assholes, especially Snow on top of all of it. So Snow, I think Snow's character is unreal. I obviously hate him, but as a villain, he's so put together. He is so haunting and chilling. The way the roses become something so symbolic within this story is unreal. How they talk about how Snow used to poison people within the Capitol to enable him to get that leadership president spot. He would drink from the same cup, and he would have sores in his mouth, which is why he would always smell of blood, but would wear so many roses to mask that smell with this strong perfume. It's such an interesting image which leaves me with these goosebumps that you can't get rid of, honestly. We'll talk about the ending with Snow in a second. I definitely think that this book was harder to chew. There was a lot being set up before we finally got into the capital. And in saying that, it made this book harder to read quickly, whereas with the other two books I finished them like in 2 days or 1 day. I was just so engrossed in the story. But this one just felt a lot more slower. But I don't think that's a bad thing, because Suzanne was really setting us up for this final point of destruction. And it was interesting because with the ending, when we finally overthrown the capital, I felt as if we didn't even win because of how Katniss felt after all of it. Her mental health issues are unreal. The way that Suzanne really highlights PTSD, anxiety, triggering thoughts. Yes, it's a celebratory moment, but there is so much backlash, especially within the epilogue where Katniss, she has children with Peter. Oh my god. She thought she would never have children, and how she's talking about how one day she'll tell her kids her whole story with Peter, what they had to go through, and it will forever be something that haunts them. She will forever have nightmares. There are horrifying things that have happened in this world because of humanity. When you're in that place within society that has overcome this world war, it forever changes you and enables the future to be brighter. You would hope be brighter. There are so many themes in here, and I really loved the war, propaganda, mental health issue side of this story. I thought it was really interesting how they brought back this entertainment value. For example, we see this with the recent books of being on reality TV with this game show, right? But you see that in a different way in here, that you see it through the propaganda of making her the Mockingjay. The big quote, "If we burn, you burn with us." Like, it's such a strong tagline. I thought it was horrific how Snow bombed the hospital. That scene was definitely really hard to read. And not just that scene, you were all waiting for me to talk about Prim. So I think this is the moment. The bombing of the children. It's so disgusting and horrific, and there are no words. Completely haunting and chilling. The fact that that was orchestrated by Coin is fucked up. I am so glad that Katniss ended up shooting her arrow at Coin instead of President Snow. Yes, we all wanted her to kill him, to have that last. To be fair, I do think Snow went in the best way possible. It really was the end for Coin. The fact that Prim was in the middle of that moment, and how she wanted to have another Hunger Games after, but with the capital's children. Like, that's just so fucked up. You would not want to do the same thing that you're opposing against. I'm really glad we have this repetition of, I'm gonna kill Snow, I'm gonna kill Snow, I'm gonna kill Snow, to her killing Coin. The fact that Prim, she went out to help children after that explosion, and she was taken to the exact same way because there were other parachutes that went off. Especially the last thing that Prim saw was her sister. Katniss is doing all of this for Prim, you know, volunteering for her, trying to keep her family safe. And even Gale says, I had one job, to protect your family. And it's just so heartbreaking. I really love that Paler was the one who ended up being the new leader. The scene with the cat at the end was another one that left me feeling so awful, but it was such a beautiful moment as well. The cat is very symbolic throughout this entire story, which is really interesting because I feel like the cat sometimes has an unrealistic storyline in ways, but overall the little added cheese with the cat, I think it's great. Finnick and Annie reunited, and you get a little bit more of a backstory towards Finnick. I loved that they got married, Annie ended up being pregnant, but it was so upsetting that Finnick died because of the mutts. I think Finnick is a character that is kind of underrated. He is really strong, has a great personality. I think he kind of just gets left behind a little. I'm also really sad that Cinna died as well. Cinna was such a beautiful character. I feel like he just went like that, which was just the same as Finnick. I really love the character development of Prim. Like, Prim's character is one of the best within this story. I really believe that. Her end is just so awful. Like, I can't believe we lost her. Also, I just want to say, we all know that I love Gale. So I am so glad that Katniss didn't actually shoot him when he was captured by peacekeepers, because he survived in the end. So, like, thank God. But also, oh my God, because how would you feel in that situation, thinking that he's about to be tortured or killed, or, oh my Jesus Christ. So I love this story because there is so much symbolism. There are so many references to Katniss having these nightmares, right? But this story as a whole is a fucking nightmare. Losing her sister, I just And then you have probably the most horrific parallel. You have this rose tied in with snow, and this rose on his end is enwarped with blood. But then you have Prim, and her name is Primrose. The fact that Peter picked all these roses for her, and at first Katniss was like, what the fuck? And then realized, oh, right, her name. That is so awful. Like, I read that, oh my god, just thinking back to it, I've got goosebumps. That parallel is so disgusting. I don't think I've ever read a story like this in my life, and that, like I said before, really says something. So I don't think I could recommend this series enough. I'm really excited to dive into the story about President Snow, but I've heard bad things about it, that it's quite gruesome. I don't think people really enjoyed it as much, but I'm really excited to see what Suzanne has concocted about his past. There's so many themes within this entire series, which just makes it as a whole something very dark. I know that this series will be one that I remember for a lifetime, because it's so horrific, but mainly towards the message that's hidden within these pages. I definitely think Catching Fire was my favorite out of all three. Catching Fire was just something else. It was so unreal. I loved it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you in my next one. As usual, bye!